We're going to now go into two technical pieces of this. Bob Gibbs, who I described to you last week as the best retail planner on the planet, and it's true. He turned our plan upside down yesterday afternoon at about 2:30. He had to recreate it with his new ideas. Bob is going to walk you through how the retailing could work, and in particular the financial implications for the city. And then following Bob, Jim Desa from Fair and Piers, the transportation planners, is going to talk about the traffic engineering and mobility ideas in the plan to date. Robert? Let's welcome for the first time Robert Gibbs. Here's your laser, and this is the button that makes it go.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our assignment is to look at your market area and to tell you how many square feet of retail are supportable by category and what the types and all of that. We also are to be the reality check for the planners, which isn't very hard because their plans are very real, to make sure that what's proposed can really be developed by the real world. More than half of our clients are real-world developers and shopping center retailers whom take these plans and implement them. And so we're making sure that you have the amount of parking, that the parking is in the front of the building so people can see the door, and the service loading docks are big enough, and all of that. That's been our responsibility. And we have been very pleasantly surprised. We sent a team out here about a month and a half ago to do our research, and we have a team of analysts whose job it is to go through every retail store in your market. We go into the supermarkets and test the quality of the meats and look at the expiration dates on the milk cartons and look at the apparel sold in the department stores to see whether it's this year's apparel or last year's apparel. And we figure out a lot about you from doing that. And we came up with a number of what's supportable of somewhere around 175,000 square feet or so, maybe a little more. And after being here, we decided that that was probably too conservative. That in reality, there's a number of things that you can have here, even though you are surrounded by a lot of retail, your market can handle a lot more. The study site is right here, as you know, and this outlines what we call our primary trade area, where about 60% of the shoppers we estimate will come from, and this represents about a 6-mile radius. Shoppers will come from about 6 to 8 miles. Most of your shoppers will come from that area to shop here. So that's good for you in a lot of ways because you're not going to be a regional shopping destination for the most part. It's going to be the people that live here. Within this primary, and this is what we call the secondary trade area, which goes quite a bit further out, where the balance of the shoppers will come from, there's about 90,000 persons who live in both of those trade areas, and it's a very diverse population in a lot of ways, especially in terms of income and education. For example, about 30% of the people who will be shopping and who live in this trade area, about a third of you have one car or less. On the other hand, about 15% of you have incomes of $100,000 or more. So it's a very well-rounded mix of population, which allows us to do all kinds of fun things. You can have some upper-end restaurants and then a lot of middle and moderate-priced restaurants and priced apparel. The median income for this area is, as an average, the median is $62,000 per year, and about 70% of you live in married households. So it's a very well-rounded, from a retailing point of view, nice place. This trade area spends a lot of money. You probably are what we call over consumers, which we like. You're spending about $1.6 billion every year in the retail business. So there's lots of MasterCards going across the counters here. Of that $1.6 billion that you're spending, we think you can capture about $40 million in additional sales revenues. The area is surrounded by a lot of new and existing retail, but in spite of that, nationally, this East Bay area is seen as a prime target for more retail, and more retail is going to be developed here. For a long time, this area has been ignored. All the glamour goes to the other side of the bay, but in reality, you're on you're a push pin on a lot of corporate rooms that are saying we want to locate and deploy new retail over here. There's a regional mall within your market area, which brings a lot of people here on a regular basis. We believe that most of these people are actually underserved. The new thing in retail malling development is to give people something to do inside, but nearby to give them something to do outside, because a lot of people just don't like shopping anymore inside regional malls. And when they do go there, they tend to go in and out of the department stores, and then with the rest of the time, they want to go out and shop somewhere else. There's a lot of diverse housing stock here. There's a tremendous amount of growth. I'm from Michigan, and that's one of the states that actually has a declining population. Most of us move out here sometime during our lifespan. And so it's exciting to be in a place where you have a lot of growth in population. The retailing around you is some of the best we've seen anywhere. The Walnut Creek area is really state-of-the-art. And this was very radical when it was built, but today this is now considered the only way in which you can build a shopping center. There are almost no new enclosed malls being built anymore, and this sort of Main Street setting or a new urbanist type shopping center is how almost every retailer in this country wants to locate, because that's the kind of place their shoppers want to go to. People have really rebelled by not wanting to go to power centers or shopping malls anymore. The shopping center industry doesn't like to call these new urbanism because they hate things that are new and urban, so they call them lifestyle centers. Last year at the national conference in Las Vegas, more than 55% of every new shopping center was a lifestyle center. So your timing is perfect. Had you been developing this property 10 years ago, I probably would have been standing here saying what you need is a really good old-fashioned power center or a good old-fashioned regional mall. Today, that's not the case. Today, your timing is just right because the market is saying we only want to build town centers, which happens to correspond with a lot of what you want. You're getting the Hercule Village outlet, which is approved coming nearby. Even though your trade area is about 90,000 persons, this trade area is much larger. It's going to attract people of it's going to attract about 625,000 people. It has a trade area of over 500,000 people, which is good and bad for you. It's good because a lot of these people will want to stay an extra day in a hotel. A lot of them will want to do something besides just shop at a discount store. And that gives you an opportunity to have a whole lot of other businesses and restaurants and shops that your population couldn't support on its own. Sorry. Thanks. One of the things that I want to make clear to you is that you can't support really another department store like Macy's or Nordstrom's or something like that. And so that puts you into what we call an anchorless center category, which means that you won't get a Walnut Creek type development, whether you want one or not. And I know there's real mixed feelings about that. What sort of retail you're going to get is going to be more the neighborhood supportable retail, like the supermarket, the dry cleaners, the hair salons, and pharmacies, and things like that. Our general tenant mix plan is very unusual for us. Instead of concentrating all the retail in one place, we are actually recommending, this is one of the only times we've ever done this, but we're actually recommending 3 or 4 primary diversified retail areas. One is what we're calling the bayfront shops. I probably participate in 50 of these a year, and I've been doing this for 12 years. And this is probably the best site that I've ever seen as long as I've been practicing. This bayfront location, which Victor has done a nice job planning a square, probably is one of the best sites in the country. And I think it offers an excellent opportunity for the community to come together and really experience the waterfront in a way which is very rare. Aesthetically, it may look something like Carmel or some of the other touristy areas in the region, but in reality, the tenant mix will be grounded to things in which you really use. It's not necessarily going to be a tourist spot. It'll be a place where you really go to hang out. One of the things that surprised us is that within about a 10-minute walk of that area, more than 5% of the trade area will exist. So there's going to be almost 2,000 households here that'll have an easy walk to the restaurant or to the shop or something like that. In addition to that, there's a lot of office and stuff here, which really makes it more supportable. We think Site C is an excellent location for a regional anchor. Regional anchors are important because it brings people here on a regular basis past the other shops. After they do their regional shopping, then they can go to the other places and make them more supportable. This is the Outlet Village site, which you know about. And then right here is where we're considering what we call the neighborhood village, which is really where we see most of the Hercules residents coming 2 or 3 times a week. This is a view of another waterfront, but you have this sort of quality view, which is extremely rare. And in order to have that kind of view that you use on a regular basis with some sort of local family restaurant or some maybe non-chain type retail is a very rare mixture. We see the retail itself taking on more of a residential type, small Main Street type character. It's possible that you could even support some sort of small performing arts cinema or some small cinema there. There's been a change in the cinema business in the last 3 months where the small theaters are coming back again, and I could see those being in sort of that location. The village center, we think, as Victor does, that you'll have very much of a Main Street character. We see the tenants including a supermarket, but not a supermarket that's surrounded with large parking and such. Sure, the parking will be convenient, but it'll be blended into the Main Street. This is Victor's plan, which he'll go into more detail, but you will have a Main Street type spot with shops and such, and this is the supermarket with a door right there. The supermarket has all of its parking, but the parking is mid-block, and it's surrounded by small liner type shops. The third component, which we just sort of threw in, was to look at your hotel market, and I know the city has a policy and a master plan for hotels, which we 100% agree with. You will have the location where you will probably be able to accommodate 3 classes of hotels, a business type hotel, a village hotel right in the village. The newest trend in hotels is to put people where they can do something after they check in besides watch CNN. They can walk around and shop and go to restaurants. And then I think in the Bayview area, you have an opportunity for one of the premier small, quaint hotels, which are very popular. We are very, very bullish on this market. We think that, Jim, I don't know if the slides are there. Are the charts there? Let's see them. I don't think they're there. You know, did you see if the charts are there? All right. Overall, I've got to tell you that this is probably one of the best markets we've seen. You're not the richest market. You're not the biggest market. You don't have the most expensive developer ready to knock on your door. But once this plan is approved and once you take it out to the public, I think you have an opportunity to have the kinds of restaurants and shops and environment that most Americans are looking for today. You can get a very nice village center where most of you go on a regular basis, and you will have this wonderful waterfront, which will be an amenity not only to the people who visit the outlet village, but it'll be a great resource for you to sort of have that quality of life that's extremely rare in this country. Man, we probably don't have to show those. All right, thanks. Thanks. That's all right. Thank you. This is sort of the boring part of the presentation. I'm sort of the boring guy. In the Bayfront area, we're saying you can support about 40,000 square feet of retail, which translates to about 10 stores and restaurants. We see there being a small convenience market that you can walk to, a nice women's or men's apparel store. These are square footage numbers, and this is the store. A nice optical eye store, a personal type store, an art gallery, probably 2 or 3 art galleries. There's a big void in your market for furniture. We drove around and looked in your windows, and most of you could use a few more pieces of furniture. So we're calling for more furniture, and I think you could support at least 2, maybe 3 really nice quality restaurants there. And then home furnishings like accessories and things to hang on your walls. Most of you need to perk up your living rooms a little bit, so that's really an ideal place to do that. The Village Center, which is where it's anchored really with this new supermarket, is where we see you coming for your daily type dry cleaning, personal service, a little market, the bank, your liquor store, sporting goods, home furnishings, florist, video, a little more furniture, a hardware store. Even if a large national hardware home store goes in, you still could support a hardware store, a hardware, and then a grocery. So it's fairly conveniently located. We think this is where you'll go on a very regular basis, and then when you want a nice night out or you want to be by the waterfront, you have really the opportunity to have best of the both worlds. Normally, we hook these together in one big center, but your waterfront's just too nice to ignore. Projected sales. Last year, roughly, we understand that your city had about $30 million of retail sales. You're really underspending. We think the Village Center will do about $10 million center of sales. We think okay, this is the Bayfront. This is the Village Center. Will do about $30 million. The Outlet Center is forecast. Yeah, this would be the new regional big box, which we're calling for, would be about another $30 million. And the Outlet Village Center is really forecast to be closer to $40 million. What that means is that your income sales in the next your retail sales will go from 30 million up to, what was it? Over 100 million. Over $100 million. And this is what it means in terms of tax revenues. I understand you have some strange tax laws in this state. In Michigan, we don't. We just tax everything equally. But currently, you're getting about $300,000 in revenues from taxes. I think you get 1% for the city. By the year 2005, that $300,000 will grow up to about $1.5 million in additional revenues, which is really a win-win. You get the state-of-the-art village. Your timing is perfect. You're going to have 2 or 3 really nice centers to go to for your family. And in addition to that, you're going to really get 5 times increase in retail sales. So I think that was the last one. Yeah. So I'm very glad to be here. I want to commend you on doing this in the 90s. If we had been doing in the 2000, if we had been doing this in the 1910s or 20s, we probably would have been recommending the same kind of center. It's just since the 1950s, as you know, we did the strip centers. The strip centers are really the dying dinosaurs. You won't see hardly any of them built anymore. Had you built one 10 years ago, it would have been obsolete by the end of that generation. So it's really a great time for you to be doing what you're doing. Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Last time